Christopher Shein. This is my garden. Welcome. I'm going to show you a food forest and a productive backyard edible garden, what you can do in a small space. So this is an evolving food forest we have. So there's 16 fruit trees planted here, and if we step back in time 3.5 years ago, this was all a lawn with a few ornamental shade trees. The goal is it's going to be a productive forest of fruit and nuts. And the strategy that we're using here is that these are all deciduous fruit trees, so there's about 4 to 5 months depending on the tree where they're going to have no leaves, they're deciduous, and so there'll be more light that comes in, and so we can plant things in the winter time, a lot more greens and things that do really well with the rains and the cold weather. And so in the winter, traditionally we've grown cabbage in the beds, broccoli, cauliflower, whatever, so seasonally we can grow things quite well here. This is permaculture, and this is a food forest, and it's kind of borrowing from native traditions from around the world, and we're trying to look at polyculture gardening, not monoculture gardening. And so a food forest is just an expression of that, of a complex ecosystem we're trying to recreate here in our own gardens. And so we're looking at different niches, and so with the food forest there's a canopy layer, and that's going to be the fruit trees and the nut trees, the big trees, and there's smaller trees. The dwarf apple trees will kind of be a smaller layer of the food forest, and there's a shrub layer, there's an herb layer, a vine layer, a root layer, so there's all these different layers, 7 levels of a food forest. Strawberries is a ground cover. We mix in some flowers to bring in beneficial insects, so you'll see there's echinacea, purpurea under the almond tree that the butterflies and bees and whatnot like. In the summer, this time of year, the fall, there's a lot of shade, and so certain things just aren't going to grow as well, but are kind of, in the plant world, our megafauna, our giant plants are kind of rocking it. And so there's beans, like scarlet runner beans, right behind me here too. So they're creating the most shade, but they're producing a lot of food. That's gonna be hard not to pick, but tomatoes. So that's kind of the shadier spot back there. Thinking about a food forest, there's definitely going to be more shade canopy, and a big concept here is edges. And so where it's sunnier, where it's shadier, that's going to be an edge. To the south, the sun side, you want as much open space as you can to have a big light trap, and so we'll be able to grow some of our annual vegetables all the time in some of the sunnier spots. And so over here you can see it's getting sunnier, and so this is where we grow our tomato plants. There's perennial pepper plants out here. This is the mashua behind me here, and more tree collards. There's some pumpkins growing vertically. So this is a crop that usually takes a lot of garden space for backyard gardeners. So some people will kind of stay away from growing pumpkins or winter squashes. So this is a little straw bale casita. We have a little studio, and it's about 12 feet high. And the pumpkins are growing up to the top, growing up a trellis, and they're starting to cover the roof, and it's making pumpkins on the roof where it's a nice hot surface. So it's increasing our growing area from a small little footprint of a garden bed to suddenly the whole roof space of the building next to us. So this is an apple tree that's being fed by our gray water. So our shower water from upstairs comes down through some pipes into the garden and it just spills out here into a mulched basin. So there's wood chips around the base of this apple tree, and every time we shower, it irrigates the apple tree. Any kind of permaculture system, any kind of food forest, we need to have a balance between the animals and the plants. We need a source of eggs, of meat, their entertainment. One of the cool things about having so many chickens in the yard, there's about 40 right now, and 4 ducks, is that they produce a lot of fertility for our garden. So it goes back to the garden. They do pest management, so the chickens and ducks eat snails and slugs and any kind of garden pest. They'll eat the leaves, like a broccoli leaf that's yellow, they'll eat those leaves. We started this garden by bringing in about 11 yards of compost to plant the bamboo and plant the raised beds for the vegetable garden and fruit orchard. And then that was 3 years ago. And then now at this point, we're exporting about 12 yards a year of soil that we've made largely from the chicken manure, and we bring in wood chips and straw and things like that, and restaurant kitchen waste. Basically, we mine out the chicken coop, the litter of the chicken coop for the garden and to start new gardens, because we don't need 12 yards of soil for this small backyard garden. It's just showing a model of abundance. This food forest concept has been around since any humans have been planting plants thousands of years ago. So we're just trying to bring that back to the cities. Is what we're trying to do here.